Petey, in just a few minutes, we will talk to Jimmy Jacobs, which I'm super excited. But the longest interview we've ever done, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, man, with Jimmy, I can't believe, like, he's like, yeah, man, I'll do the whole podcast with you. I mean, who says that? Usually it's like, hey, can we get 15 minutes of your time? You know, remember when we talked about this with the Young Bucks?
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, it's kind of weird asking your friends, you know, and it's hard to get 15 minutes and stuff. But he was like, yeah, man, I'll just do the whole podcast with you. I'm like, whatever you guys want to talk about. I'm like, dude, that's like that's really cool of him.
Every question I kept waiting to hear, I got to go writers meeting. So, and it didn't happen.
No. I mean, luckily enough, you know, it didn't happen. We got through the whole podcast and interview, I should say, and then that's when he was able to go.
Do you know why we had that whole podcast with Jimmy Jacobs and we went so long?
Do I know why?
Do you know why?
Why?
I took Blue Chew, Petey.
Oh, you know what?
And I was able to go that
Yeah.
long. And look, interviewers, it's weird. Look, we're doing an ED erection pill ad, and I'm talking about writers. But look, I would not have been able to go with Jimmy Jacobs for almost an hour without Blue Chew, Petey. And I tell you, I'm using Blue Chew for everything now.
I mean, you went like head to head with him. I mean, everything that he was, you know, saying to you, you were saying right back. So I mean, isn't the Blue Chew? You tell me, Dennis.
I don't know. I think there was a time where you put down the mic and walked away and didn't come back for 20 minutes.
There was that one time. But, you know, I mean, sometimes you have to refill on your Blue Chew, man.
That's right.
Kind of like stamina in a video game.
So Blue Chew is the lifeblood of this podcast. If you're listening and you enjoy any of the podcasts we've done, whether it's with the Young Bucks or Brian Cage or with Jimmy Jacobs, I can name interview after interview after interview. You can go back and listen to them in our archives, WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. I didn't do any of these promos during the show, so I'm going to fit them all in a Blue Chew ad. Blue Chew is the lifeblood of this podcast. Go to BlueChew.com, use the promo code WPP, and for just $5 shipping and handling, PD, you personally are going to give them a free order.
Yeah, it's going to show up like right at your door. You know, no like weird, like, oh, you know, I have to go through the doctor and order this and all that kind of stuff. Nope, discreet on the computer. Boom, boom, boom. WPP promo code at your door. Just pay $5 shipping and handling. You're good to go.
Now, if Jimmy Jacobs was writing this ad, how do you think he would end this promo with, you know, how we always say you're going to main event in your bed and we're going to have a ref and you're going to get the clean finish in the middle of the bed for the 1, 2, 3? How would Jimmy Jacobs write that match?
Oh, man, he would probably, well, first, you would not be on the Blue Chew. You'd be the babyface, right? You'd be getting, like, Hulk Hogan 1980s beaten up, like how he used to get beat up every single match. And then it's almost as if, like, Hogan popped the Blue Chew right before the heel would hit that finishing move on him. And then he'd kick out on 2 and then Hulk up. And then there was nothing you could do to stop Hogan after that. It was Hulk up, punch, 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 big boot, leg drop, 1, 2, 3. I mean, that's what it's going to be.
And with Blue Chew, by the way, it works twice as fast because it's a chewable tablet. So Hogan would have had plenty of time to recover and do this Hulk up thing that he used to always do. So it's perfect because with the blue pill, I don't think you would have hit the TV time limit before it kicked in.
Oh, definitely. And, you know, and I think that's what Hogan, you know, now I'm starting to think, was Hogan the originator of Blue Chew?
Oh,
I mean, it's almost like you could go and watch every single one of his matches. Like, yep, that's when he popped the Blue Chew. Or like maybe the Ultimate Warrior. Like, yep, that's when you know what? Ultimate Warrior was on Blue Chew right from those curtains. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh,
that's why he was like just living off that Blue Chew.
That's right. Blue Chew has the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, so you know it works. As PD says, it comes in a package that you won't know that you're getting it. There's no awkward doctor's visits, and you're helping the podcast. All you got to go is the BlueChew.com. Use the promo code WPP. pay the $5 shipping and handling. You're helping out this podcast. And by helping out this podcast, we're going to continue to bring you amazing content. I don't even care if you need Blue Chew. Just order it. Put it in a drawer. Use it. I don't know if you can give it away to friends legally or not. I'm going to say no on the podcast. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But, look, you have enough Golden Elite shirts. You have enough Bullet Club pins. I know you went out and bought your AEW shirts already. Save that $5 for Petey and I. That's all we ask for.
Yeah, I mean it's $5 cheaper than any shirt that you can buy, and it's not going to get the experience that you're really hoping for. Or did a Bullet Club shirt really get you what you need? Like, honestly?
No.
Honestly? No.
It might have the opposite effect. Like, if you come up with a girl and you have a Bullet Club shirt and you're like, yo, girl, what's up? And she's like, what is the Bullet Club? And then you're like, well, it is a group of wrestlers owned by New Japan Pro Wrestling. And then you do the push up to the glasses with your finger. And like, as you talk and you educate her, first of all, the Good Brothers were there and Prince Devitt was there, but now he's no longer him because he's in WWE. And then AJ Styles was here and then they left and they kicked him out. And then this guy, and you can see the look on her face that she's like, who is this nerd? You don't want
if she's still standing there. If she's still standing there listening to you.
Oh yeah, because like after the third version of the Bullet Club, she probably left. She's like, I don't know who any of these people are.
Exactly. So instead, Blue Chew.
Yep.
And then night's done. I mean, that's all it is. 2 words.
That's
Blue
it.
Chew.
Blue Chew. That's it. Pete, I know you got to get going because you have a production meeting in Mexico City. Hola, my friend. Enjoy. Thank you so much for doing the podcast this week. Happy 2019, Pete.
All right. You too, Dennis.
It's the very first wrestling perspective of 2019, the podcast version. Petey Williams, Dennis Farrell here. Pete, hola, my friend.
Oh, how's she going, eh?
Going good. You're Mexico City, I believe, now?
We're Mexicans, Mexico City bound for our, I guess it's our second set of tapings for Impact. First Impact taping out of the country right now, and we're doing back-to-back shows tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday, to air on the Pursuit channel as well as on Twitch simultaneous at 10 o'clock on Friday. So this is exciting for our company right now.
First podcast of 2019. We took some time off. My grandma died. We buried her. We moved on. It's time to go. They don't mean to be crass about it, but it's been a thing if you've listened to the podcast. But Pete, we've got a pretty special guest with us today.
Hey, it's a very special guest, a very close friend of mine, a guy that I respect so much in this business. I've known him for, oh my goodness, 18 years, I want to say. I mean, I think before he could even grow facial hair. He'll correct me if I'm wrong. But my good friend, Jimmy Jacobs. Jimmy, how's it going, man?
Hey, man, it's fabulous. Here we are in Mexico City. I'm in one room, you're in the room next to me.
Hey, well, we got a big enough suite, Dennis. This is how we roll, all right? We got a big enough suite that we just we're in opposite rooms right now doing this.
I gotta say, I've had some experience with Jimmy Jacobs, and he has been one of the nicest guys I've ever met in the wrestling industry. I think I should publicly say thank you, Jimmy, for just kind of treat me like a cool guy. You didn't have to sometimes, and you did, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you, man. Of course. I mean, we're all human beings. So that's all I strive to do is be a good dude above all else.
So Petey says you've known him for 18 some odd years. Every time I try to get somebody on, I try to get a not so much embarrassing or a funny Petey Williams story, but a Petey.
Oh no! Oh, here we go.
or a Petey Williams story because. Petey and I have been friends longer than I have been a fan of his. I have always loved wrestling, but I was never quite a Petey Williams fan, and I barely like him as a person now. But can you give us some insight as to your 18 years ago or so, your first thoughts, impressions about Pete?
Boy, I first remember Petey. Petey, when did you break in? 02?
No, it was like 2000, but maybe we didn't meet until like 02 maybe. That's when I kind of started coming.
Maybe 01. Yeah, you and what was the guy named Trent Steele or something?
Yes, yeah, Trent Steele. Yeah,
yeah. I remember you. Were you two like kind of like married when you first started to break out?
Aww.
Well, we trained together. Like he actually got me into the school. Like he went to the school first, and then he was working out at the gym I worked out at, and he said, "Oh, I went to this school. Do you want to come?" And they said, "You can," and I did. And he kind of was my in, so we were kind of, we talked wrestling. We were buddies, so we were kind of married in that sense, where buddies that wanted to do it, and that was it. So that's why we were kind of married to each other.
But you were jacked, and he wore like a t-shirt and like shorts or something, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet. I didn't know that about you, Pete.
Well, you don't know Petey Williams was jacked?
Know that he had been married to somebody else like that.
Oh yeah. Well, when he first came in, when you first break in, or when you're breaking out, for a while, Alex Shelley and I were married. He and I went on the road together and sort of did our thing together. So I just remember equating Petey Williams with this Trent Steele character. That's my first impression of Petey. And then we were on the road together. In 2000, probably 3, 4, 5 in those years. We were working at Independence together, the IW Mid-South or IWC in Pittsburgh. I remember, what was that road trip, Pete? It was like you, me.
Best road trip ever.
M-Dog and
Saban.
Was it Saban, Shelley, maybe the 5 of us?
Shelley wasn't there. Josh Prohibition. Yeah. And that's when we saw Napoleon Dynamite for the first time.
Yeah.
And we almost got hit by a car and everything.
Yeah, it was like Pittsburgh, Erie, Pennsylvania loop, and that was Erie, Pennsylvania. I remember this show because AJ Styles was on it, and he was the X Division champion. And I took his belt was in the locker room, and I took a picture naked wearing the X Division belt, where it was just covering my junk. And then AJ walked in. He was pretty pissed, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Like, what a little shitty thing for a 20-year-old kid to do, to like pick up X Division titles, like sit around his waist was naked. I've got the picture somewhere. It'll never surface online, but I have the picture.
You've shown it to me, and I've seen it. So
yeah, that was
Let's get in and start getting into at least some clickbait headlines, because there's so many things to ask you that the internet community will buzz over some of your answers, and I kind of enjoy this kind of stuff because you're a very open and honest guy, and you'll tell me to kick sand or this could not be true. Let's just start with the AEW stuff right now, which is the hottest thing in wrestling, and it deserves the beat. You are part of the inner workings of Impact Wrestling. You have connections to AEW. What kind of, if there have been any talks between you guys, have you been involved? There are rumors that you got Impact and, AEW can work together. What do you see?
I have no real inside knowledge of AEW or anything that's going on. I go back a long way with the Young Bucks. Clearly, they're friends of mine. I was honored to be a part of All In, just to be a part of that Battle Royal. It was just a historic event, undoubtedly. And they're hopefully on the precipice of something really big here. You'll be the press conference they had this week. Man, it looks like the real deal, and it's awesome. I haven't had any talks with them. I'm working with Impact Wrestling now, and I'm actually pretty happy, pretty content in the role on that. But I'm curious to see where it's going, man. I'm hoping the best of these guys. The Young Bucks have over-delivered on everything they've done over the past years, and it just keeps growing and growing and getting bigger and bigger. And we're gonna see. I'm a fan, just like you, man. I'm along for this ride to see where this is gonna go.
Let me ask to top that, not top that, but just to touch on that a little bit. So, Jimmy, I've seen you work like behind the scenes and like rewrite the show and stuff like that. And I have to say, like, the way you do it, like when you're presented a problem, like immediately, like I don't see anybody like filter a problem in their brain so fast and then spew out whatever it is that's going to fix the problem or potentially fix the problem. I haven't seen that before. I feel like you work on a different level. With that being said, what do you feel? Okay, let's play like fantasy booking right now. Right now, hypothetically speaking, okay, we're talking about AEW. Say Jimmy Jacobs is like, okay, you're one of the creative people, one of the bookers at AEW. Ball's in your court now. What do you do? Where do you start? What would you do?
Oh, man, that's a huge question, man. It's difficult because scarcity creates value, right? So the fact that All In was a one-time thing, sold out, right? And Double or Nothing coming out in May, I'm sure it's going to sell out. It's probably going to sell out quickly. The next show they do after that, can they keep the momentum going? That's the real question of how do you make this feel special all the time? And then you're going to have to ask, okay, what's our business model? What's our revenue? Where's our money coming in from? Are we just going to do live events, once every few months? Well, it seems like with I have no inside knowledge of the contracts they're offering people, but they're offering people contracts. You would think that they're not just going to do a one show here, one show there, one show there. It seems like this is going to be a more reoccurring thing. Now, can you sustain running large arenas with that sort of frequency? Like, that remains to be seen. And dude, I don't know how to. I don't know. I don't have an answer of how you keep something special while also delivering it at a more frequent pace, a higher frequency. And that was, to me, my estimation, one of the huge problems with Monday Night Raw. It's 3 hours. It's every single week. It's hard to make things feel important when you have 3 hours every single week. So if these guys are looking to do like a TV show, I think my recommendation would be like, don't bite off more than you can chew. Like, they have something really special right now, and what they have is something that's cool. They have the cool factor. That's a big deal. You can't put a price tag on that. You can't put a price tag on cool. So if I were them, I would proceed cautiously. I wouldn't be in a rush to sign a TV deal where you have to produce 2 hours of content a week, even, because 2 hours, you're gonna start to do a lot of stuff, and once people can see this and they can see it with frequency, and they can see a lot of it with frequency, it loses some of its luster. So I would think maybe you want a 1 hour show, maybe a 90-minute show. I mean, 90 minutes is actually probably pretty good time for a TV show. So you run your Double or Nothing in May. Maybe you do another show a few months after that. And I don't know, man, you have to start picking up steam at some point, right? And maybe that's not even in 2019. Maybe that's 2020.
You brought something up that's real interesting, and it's frequency. And one of the things the fans really love right now in the independent circuit is this open contracts where you can see wrestlers on different shows. I personally, I like the freedom, but I hate the fact that you're going to see the same guy show up on 3 different shows in 3 different storylines. Now, is that something that you as a writer, you're a fan of? Are you cognizant of what someone else is doing on different TV shows right now, whether it be MLW or X, Y, and Z, when you do something for him on Impact?
I really don't care that much. No, I mean, we all sort of live in our bubbles. And I care about what we did last week and what we're going to do next week, not so much about what anybody else is really doing. And maybe that's short-sighted of me. Maybe that's narrow of me. Maybe I should be more in tune with what else is going on. But no, no, I'm not. I don't care what else is doing.
Do you kind of like exclusivity for you personally? Because you're free to wrestle. You do all kinds of independent shows. I don't know if I've seen you pop up, and I'm not to say that I'm ignorant to the situation, but seen you pop up on any other TV shows. Is that something you're doing on purpose to keep you exclusive to Impact? Do you have a contract where you could go wrestle, or even maybe write some for Impact since they have a very limited schedule, and then maybe go to a different company and do some writing for them on the side to help them out?
Yeah, I mean, of course, my main job here is writing for Impact Wrestling. But I always enjoy my freedom, and that's just a me thing. I don't know if that's particular to me, but I've always liked that. I've never really liked working with a contract. I mean, there was days in my last sort of years in Ring of Honor where like I didn't have a contract working for them. There was guys who were making a lot more money than me, but I kind of didn't care because I liked the freedom. I like that. I like having freedom. With Impact Wrestling, like you said, our schedule is not, it's not a crazy schedule, so I'm free to do really whatever else I want to do. I work on independence. I also, I help write for Rise Wrestling, an all-women's company sort of based out of Chicago, and with Kevin Harvey, and I help put shows together with him. And I've had my hands in other things too, and people approach me with other sort of projects, and as long as Impact Wrestling is my first priority, I think I'm really free to do whatever I want.
Now, I'm going to have to ask you this. You can skirt it or not answer it, but has AEW reached out to see if you'd be interested in working with them? I have to ask that question.
Yeah, no, there's no, like I said, I'm friends with Matt and Nick, but I think they're aware that I've got my job with Impact Wrestling, and no, they're doing their thing, and I'm doing mine, and I'm just happy for everybody, dude.
It's amazing to watch the way the independent circuit is going, and I don't know if you're a stand-up fan of stand-up comedy, but I equate the independent wrestling scene to stand-up comedy where, during the 80s it was phenomenal. The 90s comedy clubs were closing left and right, and it really didn't seem like things turned around until the really podcast started going, and then, talent was in charge of building their own fan base and bringing their fan base to wherever they go. Stand-up comedy, all these comedians had podcasts. You start seeing comedy clubs come back around. And maybe I'm making a stretch and putting this together, but I feel like you see the same things with the way, podcast is. Fans are now controlling their own media. The independent circuit is coming around. It's a great network of people talking. How much do you equate the new podcast medium to the, I guess the rise again of the independent wrestling scene?
I don't think that's a stretch at all. I wouldn't equate it necessarily with the podcast medium, but just the idea that everybody has access to this medium. You and I, right now, here we are. We're talking, we're creating our own thing, and everybody can do that now. So the idea that you need this huge, this big TV deal to reach fans, man, that's a thing of the past now. This ain't, think the 50s. There are more than 4 channels. There's an infinite amount of channels now. You can go on YouTube, you can make your own videos, and that's really what's happened. I mean, All In sold out in 30 minutes with no television promotion. That's crazy. That's historic. And Double or Nothing is going to sell out too with no TV deal. So certainly the booms in wrestling have always happened in sort of a correlation between the way the media and the way people get it right. You're talking about the 50s, and there's TV just sort of comes around, and there's 4 channels, and wrestling's cheap to produce, and then there's Gorgeous George, right? And it's sort of that becomes sort of a national phenomenon. And then in the 80s, when cable started coming around, and Vince McMahon capitalized on that with Hulk Hogan, and then you talk about the mid-late 90s. Now everybody's got cable, and there's two different stations, and they're both playing wrestling at the same time. And so it's always been a thing related to media. So right now, it's not surprising to me that this resurgence in independence is directly correlated with a set of stars, Gorgeous George, Hulk Hogan, Steve Austin, now the Young Bucks, a set of stars and a particular media. Yeah.
Pete.
So now that, so I don't want to say network TV's dead because it's not, but like social media, that can build a company, just like you said. Now, looking at Impact's new model, we're on Pursuit now, as well as Twitch. So Twitch is social media, and you know how it goes. Now, do you see, since Pursuit's like kind of it's a channel pretty much where they kill living things. Like, I mean, it's a hunting show. It's a gaming, a killing for sport, but, it's, hunting, fishing, all that kind of stuff, outdoorsy things. Now, will you see, like, do you feel like we'll see kind of a change in how Impact, like the storylines are and kind of the edginess? Like, for example, okay, the big hot thing, at least it was in 2018, was, kind of intergender wrestling, where you had like a man and woman wrestling, doing luchador type stuff, all that kind of stuff, which is kind of like, it's frowned upon on network TV because it's like, man on woman violence is, not good. Do you see now that we're switching to Pursuit and to Twitch, that could be something that you could see on Impact maybe in the future?
So it's conceivable, right? So intergender wrestling was something that, at first, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this doesn't work, right? It takes me out of suspension of disbelief. But then I keep, I'm at these shows and I see the audiences and the way the crowds are reacting, and I say, okay, cool, there's something here, right? There's something here. I'm not so narrow that I can't see past my own personal views. All right, there's something here. At least on a micro level, right? So, but then you look at the one television company that was doing intergender wrestling, which was Lucha Underground, and their fan base started to dwindle, their ratings started to dwindle, and I don't know if you can correlate the two, but it's you could surmise that perhaps a mainstream audience wasn't ready for that. I don't know. Personally, I would like to see us try to take that jump. I would like to run that experiment with our company to see if that's something that's viable. But that's not my call. I don't know what the standards and practices are of Pursuit Channel, and that's something we'll have to sort of look into and play by ear and see how it comes.
You just mentioned about how you can see past your own self. I know that you're a very self-aware guy. You're a vegan. You live a very straight-edge life. Do you feel like going to this kind of channel will conflict with your own personal beliefs? Is that something you have to wrestle with, or is that, what it is, I'm going to do what I'm going to do?
Right. So certainly hunting isn't my cup of tea, or things with guns or of that nature. But look, there's a lot of things that go on that I don't personally try to engage in. Like I said, shooting animals, eating animals would be a couple of those things. So it's not a lifestyle that I would personally want to glorify. However, like, look, man, we live in a society where people make their choices, and you can't put your foot down on every single thing, right? You can just do what you can do, and I just try to live my life in accordance with what I think is all right. So no, I mean, I'm not gonna throw a big fuss about this, or put my flag in the ground and say, hey, we can't go to the Pursuit Channel, guys. I mean, we're going there either way, whether I put my flag in the ground or not, right? So no, I don't have some huge moral conundrum with it.
A lot of people were talking about some of the rumored stations you guys were going to, and I don't know how much of the inner workings of Impact you were privy to, but I've got to ask, when Petey and I first heard it, and I don't want to speak for Petey, it almost felt like, and maybe I'm naive, but like a little bit of a gut punch, like, Pursuit, really? Impact? I was so excited for the year you guys built, and then it felt like a Pursuit was maybe a step sideways. And this is me as a fan and how I viewed the move. Someone like you hear, at times, WGN may be interested, or Sci-Fi might be interested. How close were any of those to being true rumors? And B, I guess to this question is, what was your first instinct when you heard Pursuit Network?
So I'm not too privy. It's not in my job to go on meetings and talk to TV stations and that sort of stuff. That's sort of out of my wheelhouse. So I'm not actually too privy on how close things are going to in other stations. Here's the thing, man. You have to realize sort of what business models are, right? It's very similar to how Sinclair has Ring of Honor, right? Ring of Honor, Sinclair bought Ring of Honor and used Ring of Honor as content to then put on all their syndicated networks, or most of syndicated networks, right? And that saved them money because then they didn't have to buy, reruns of Seinfeld or reruns of How I Met Your Mother. They just had this show that they produced. They can give out to all their stations, and it saved them a lot of money by doing so. So this is actually kind of a similar situation, right? Anthem Sports Entertainment owns a good portion of the Pursuit channel, so they're using the content that they're creating to then put on their their networks, and as they do with the Fight Channel and now Pursuit Channel or Fight Network, whatever it is.
Yep.
Whether Fight Network or Fight Channel.
It's all
I think it's the Fight Network.
Yeah, so it's on the Fight Network in Canada and now Pursuit Channel in the United States. So I mean, I understand that's the business model here, right? And so certainly right. So in perception, it's a step down because it's not as many TV, it's not in as many households as Pop TV. The upside is that, look, Pop TV's demographic skewed older female. Our demographic skews older male, and we would like younger males, and that's the demographic that's going to be watching the Pursuit Channel. And the flip side of that, same side of that, I don't know. The other good thing is that we're simulcasting on Twitch. So if you have the internet, you have Impact.
Which is good, because I didn't have Pursuit. I was really worried because I feel like I'm one of those kind of insiders / guys where I'm lucky enough to have been backstage and continue whenever I come with PD. I feel welcomed. I know the guys. I enjoy watching. I find myself now watching and rooting for Impact. Not that I wasn't more than, say, the WWE, which, that's a generation thing. It's a legacy thing where I was brought up on. Impact, I missed a lot of the TNA years. Just it came along when I had stepped out to have to learn how to be adult. I come back into it now. I like what you guys are doing, and I hope that Impact can continue to step forward. I think the Twitch thing saves this whole deal for a lot of the fans, though.
Well, I mean, yeah, dude, the fact that on Twitch is huge. I don't think you could have made the move to Pursuit without also having this Twitch deal in play as well. I don't think that would have made sense at all.
This is now.
Yeah, we are sort of on the cusp right now. The time, like we were talking about earlier, where like the importance of TV is like, yeah, man, it can be important, but also it's not like necessary, right? So if you have a product, that's good, and you have a way for people to watch it, they'll watch it. So I think that's the hope here.
How does?
Well, Jimmy, let me ask you this. Well, I mean, we'll break it down. At your home, do you subscribe to cable?
No.
Either do I. And Dennis, I believe you have some sort of cable subscription, right?
I do.
All right. So I mean, out of us three talking right now, only 1/3 of us have cable. Just because I mean, I know I have Netflix and Hulu. I have the other streaming type stuff, and obviously I have Twitch because Twitch is free. So I mean, we're in the future right now where TV is not really necessary, just like Jimmy said with the AEW and all that stuff that's going on. You can build a product as long as it's good. You could build a product and a fan base without any of that stuff.
Absolutely. Jimmy, what can Impact do to either, and I don't want to use the word learn from, because you guys have just as many, knowledgeable, great leaders in Impact as AEW does, but what can Impact do to either piggyback or right alongside AEW and the buzz that it is building, or is it something that, it's a separate thing, they're in their own bubble, there's no way for you guys to, not, like I said, work together, but for you guys to share the medium, because it's WWE and then a handful of everybody else's now. AEW comes in and shakes things up. I've heard a lot of people say even without running their first show, they're now the number two company in the United States. What does this do? Is this, I know more companies where wrestlers can work is good. But when you're a company like Impact, and you've probably seen your best year, 2018, in the last several years, is AEW a threat for you guys?
I mean, it remains to be seen is the truth. I don't see it as a threat. No, I mean, certainly, look, whenever you're putting a product out, you're competing with literally everything else, right? So the fact that we're just a wrestling company, like we're competing with anything else you could be doing instead of watching Impact Wrestling. So, yes, it is also, AEW is also going to be wrestling, so it competes a little more closely. But, like, I hope that we have a good enough product that people will continue to want to watch it. I mean, the truth is, we really only ask people to lay down money, 4 times a year for the pay-per-view. So it's not a huge financial demand to watch Impact Wrestling or to be an Impact Wrestling fan. So I don't see AEW as being this huge thing that's going. I mean, it'll be huge in its own right, but huge thing that's going to eclipse Impact Wrestling, make it irrelevant, or dude, we've got some great guys under contract. We've got a TV deal. We've got the thing on Twitch. We like you said, I think we had a really great year in 2018 as far as the quality of the show goes. I think it's better than it's been in years. So I do kind of see it as 2 separate things.
Let's talk a little bit about Jimmy Jacobs and you going forward, because you find yourself in the writer's room now, and you love it, and it's something good. You still love to wrestle. Is it conflicting for you now as to which one you kind of gauge yourself being more? You'll always be a wrestler and an entertainer. The older you get, your bump card gets punched so many times. What do you want to accomplish now going forward? And not just in Impact, but, I don't know you, so I don't know if what I'm about to say is true or not, but you seem like a guy that have very specific goals. Like, you know what? You wake up and go, today I want to, have the best spinach wrap in the world. And you seem like a guy that will go on a mission, get in a car, drive 2 hours to find this place that you research for 6 hours. You're very meticulous, and I feel that way, that's how you are with your career.
That's funny. No, that's completely a mischaracterization of me right now. For years, before I worked for WWE, I mean, WWE was that was the focus, like WWE, that's it, right? And after I left there, it was nice. It was nice to no longer have this sort of thing hanging over my head of this goal, I guess. I don't want to speak ill of goals, but I'm just not a goal-oriented person at this point in my life. I'm having a good time, dude. I'm grateful. Look, you asked about writing wrestling, which I'm so grateful I have this job at Impact Wrestling. I'm so grateful I get to work for this company and do what I do, and I enjoy it. It's so nice to have a job you enjoy, and that's where the majority of my finances comes from. That's great. It's also great that I still get to perform on the weekends when I want to perform. But I'm also very grateful that the majority of my finances don't need to come from me being a high-level in-ring performer anymore, because, man, the guys now are really, really, really good, and I'm just getting older and not as good, I think, in a lot of ways. Not that it's ever that great, but dude, so I'm just grateful for where I'm at right now, and I don't have any real specific goals. I'm just kind of enjoying the journey. I don't know if that sounds like a cop-out, but there's no big destination where I'm heading. I'm just I'm enjoying the everyday of doing what I'm doing, and in a way, I think I find that far more gratifying, because I've seen guys. I've seen guys that have these goals and they accomplish these goals, and you want to know what's on the other side of it, man? You want to know what's on the other side? Nothing, man. Nothing. You're the same person, the same thing, the same everything, except you finally did what you wanted to do, and now that's done, and that's great, and in that moment it's great, but it's then what? There's nothing on the other side of it, man. I don't want to maybe that's just me from my perspective, and other people will tell you different things, because there are beautiful moments we accomplish like big goals, but if you're looking for these sort of goals to to ultimately, I guess, fulfill you, ultimately, like, make you whole, like, you're never going to find that, man. Like, so I'm enjoying being in this hotel right now in Mexico City with Impact Wrestling script in front of me, having to meet up with some of the other writers here and producers in a few minutes to go over the shows tomorrow and produce the shows tomorrow, and then go on the next day, man.
And finally, I know you have to go here, and we've kept you for 32 minutes. I appreciate
Wait, but hold on, no. But I don't think you talked about the real big news of wrestling from this week.
What's the real big news?
The real big news was Priscilla Kelly and the tampon stunt.
I was just leading into that. I'm glad that you brought it up, because this is a very interesting thing where it seems like, and as a fan, if Joey Ryan can get away with some of the antics he's doing, and fans are like, oh, it's just Joey Ryan being Joey Ryan, chill out, enjoy wrestling. And then Priscilla Kelly does something like this. Everybody's like, whoa, oh my gosh. To me, it seems like there's no gender equality here in this situation.
Look, man, I don't think you can draw that direct line. I don't think it has to do with gender. I saw some people trying to, draw that line, because she's a girl, she can't do that. She pulled a bloody tampon. I mean, not for real, but seemingly. Look, I have no problem with it. Trust me, I'm not saying, she shouldn't have done it, but it's more crass than, hey, grab my dick and I'm going to flip you with it. I mean, it's certainly more crass. It's like some sort of, body fluid. It's a little more crass. Having said that, I thought, hey man, we all do crazy things sometimes, and that was a crazy thing she did. And you know what? If I were her, I'd do it again.
Does this hurt or help her career?
Anytime you have somebody talking about you like that, I think it helps.
This is the way I look at it, Dennis. Just from my point of view, having kids and stuff. So if I were to put my kids in front of the TV to watch Joey Ryan do his, dick flip, and then Priscilla pull out the bloody tampon, okay? My two daughters, my son, they all know what a penis is. They understand that. So if somebody grabs Joey Ryan's penis, they'll be saying, oh, he's grabbing his penis. They know it's unacceptable, being 4 years old and, 8 and 2 and all that kind of stuff. But they would understand the concept of that person's grabbing his penis. That's how I look at it, right? And they would think oh, that's kind of weird. That doesn't make sense. Whatever, entertainment. But if the bloody tampon comes out, my kids are going to go, what is that? I don't understand that. They wouldn't even see it as gross, because they wouldn't even comprehend what it is. So that's how I kind of put a perspective on it of how would my little kids view it? Yeah, they're both dirty, but I mean, and it's for entertainment. And obviously, it wasn't real, but it, like Jimmy said, it does get people talking, and it's interesting. It's something that I've never even thought of before. So I mean, that's and I don't think a lot of people thought of it. So just for that to come out of her brain, I mean, I don't know what's going on up in there, but I mean, at some aspect, it's clever.
Well, when I first saw it, what I thought it was, I thought she pulled a tea bag out of her tights, and then she was gonna put the tea. So I thought it was a play on teabagging this girl. Oh, here's a tea bag out of my crotch area and putting it on your face. And I thought that was kind of clever. Then I realized it was the bloody tampon, which that's cool too, I guess.
Well, you seem like someone that would appreciate originality, and I'm not sure if I've ever seen that anywhere in wrestling.
Sure, man. Look, it's crass, right? I mean, Petey's children are clearly not the target audience for that.
Yeah, obviously.
But yeah, dude, I don't like to judge somebody for trying, right? I mean, you know what I'll judge somebody for? For doing the same thing over and over and over again that everybody's done for years and years and years. And I watch a match, I'm like, wow, this has no, I've been guilty of it myself. But man, it's just no originality. There's nothing new coming out of here. You're not even trying. You are going through what everybody else has been doing. There's nothing new. There's nothing original here. I judge that. But when somebody's like, all right, I'm going to go out on a limb and try something different, yeah, man, go for it.
I've got 2 more questions, and then we can send you on your way to write some great Impact stuff. And I'm excited to watch and see what you guys do down there in Mexico City. My second to last question, I guess I'll ask you right now is, Homecoming was probably your first show getting together since the New Year's and the announcement of going to the Pursuit Network. Was there any talks about how you're going to write the show going forward? I know Petey kind of asked a variation of this question, but is it still kind of an elephant in the room about how it's going to go forward, or you're just going to test the boundaries and see what kind of pushback you guys get?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's going to be that far, like push the boundaries, but I think a conversation needs to be had between the Impact, creative and the Pursuit channel, and just sort of see what they're comfortable with, and what and if those things are open, if we can get a little more, I have no idea if we can get more sexual or get more lewd or do an agenda wrestling. I'm not sure we even want to do any of those, but if those options become on the table, then we'll have a conversation about it.
And finally, at least for me, I know Petey may have something to wrap things up with. You've written for the highest companies in WWE, and you are turning around Impact Wrestling, you and a group of people, not you individually. What did you...
No, I'll take the credit. You can say me individually.
Jimmy Jacobs has turned around Impact Wrestling all by himself. But my question is, we've all watched wrestling growing up, and we all have said, if I was a writer, I would do X, Y, and Z. And I watched every bit of the video you cut a few weeks ago about how hard it is to write 3-hour TVs. What have you taken from your childhood of watching wrestling and put towards writing? Because it's hard to break out of your own, writer's block, I guess you would say, to create outside of a block that you think is the best wrestling. So when Jimmy Jacobs sits down to write a wrestling show, what has he pulled from the past to develop a wrestling show?
Man, there's nothing that I can think of off the top of my head that I'm sure I have. I'm sure there's things I've stolen. I know in my career, I know, when right before I went to WWE, my last match at Ring of Honor, which I thought was my last match, it was against BJ Whitmer, and then after the match, I did a little spot where Lacey came, who I had a love interest in with the storyline with Lacey for years in Ring of Honor, and she returned, and she came and saved the day for me, and her and I walked off together, very reminiscent of Macho Man Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth, WrestleMania 7, which was my favorite match, my first ever favorite match. So I certainly have stolen from my childhood, and I appreciate you watching the video I put online, the live Instagram live stream I did, where I just had the fans just talking about writing wrestling, because it's a difficult thing. I'm not saying that for any sort of like sympathy. Hey guys, this is hard. Poor me. No, man. It's easy to speak in generalities. It's easy to speak in vagueness. It's easy to say, hey, I want an exciting product. But yeah, dude, me too. What are we going to do to make this exciting? It's all easier said than done, man.
All right, I lied. I got one more because you brought that up. You've done the Instagram stuff. You love to talk, and I love to listen to you talk. I sat in a car with you for 8 hours and loved every second of every bit of information you spewed. How are your views of Jimmy Jacobs doing a podcast, or Jimmy Jacobs getting into doing some sort of regular stuff like this? Because I would listen on a regular basis. I think a ton of people would, but some talent love to do it. Some talent avoids doing this kind of stuff. Podcast, everybody has one. I could see you not doing it because everybody has one, but I could see you doing it because you are always one of the smartest guys in the room.
Well, thank you. So, first of all, I have a fear of commitment. So doing a podcast is commitment, right? That's something you have to turn out every single week, right? You've got it. You have to turn it on this day at this time. It's got to be quality, consistency, and quality is what makes these things, right? And then the question is, all right, cool. So everybody does have a podcast. Great, everybody's got a podcast now. So what's my slant on it? What's my angle I'm coming from? And I'm not sure I have an angle that I want to come from. What I'm going to do? Talk about writing wrestling every single week, and look, I could talk about Monday. If I watch Monday Night Raw, I could talk about every week and sort of dissect why I think they did what they did. But I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily my calling or not. What I want to do is a podcast with me and Sami Zayn together. That's what I want to do, because he and I are both on these parallel sort of spiritual paths, and I want to do a podcast with him. But we won't. But I want to. That's the podcast I want to do. Me and Sami Zayn trying to find enlightenment together. That's what I want to do.
Petey?
The last thing I want to ask Jimmy, I'll build you up first before I ask this question, right? And I just want to talk a little bit about workload and comparison. So when I first started sitting in after the Impact tapings for the rewrites and stuff like that, I didn't really understand all the lingo, VTR crossover, all this kind of stuff, right? And you really helped me out. You actually took the time and explained stuff to me and why we couldn't do certain things where when it comes to producing TV. I'd ask Sanjay, and he's like, no, it just doesn't work. Or Scott, no, it doesn't work, But you would actually take the time, well, it doesn't work because of this, A, B, and C. So how when you work for WWE, now working for Impact, what's I'll just leave it broad. What's the comparison of the workload? I mean, I know it's way different writing because the TVs are structured all differently and stuff. But what's the comparison of the workload, would you say? What was the biggest thing?
So a couple things. So first, when you say, hey, I appreciate the kind words, and when you say, hey, you can't do this, well, you can do this. If I said, hey, maybe you don't want to do this because X, Y, and Z, and that's what people have to sort of see about writing wrestling. It's yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things, different things you can do, but everything has a consequence, right? So you might be yeah, we could have this match here, but then that affects this here, and that's just a choice you have to make, right? So that's A. B, so the schedule's a lot different because, at Impact, right, tomorrow we're taping 2 episodes, and the next day we're taping 2 episodes. We're down here taping 4 episodes of TV. So the cool part about Impact is we get to write, a month of TV, and no matter what happens, we're going to do it like we wrote it. That's nice. At WWE, it's very week to week. It's you write 1 week, and look, man, you might have something kind of storyboarded for a few weeks after that, but the truth is, that's going to blow up, man. Rarely does a 3 or 4 week plan ever go how you'd like it to. I mean, even if Vince McMahon himself lays out, week 1 we're doing this, week 2 we're doing this, week 3 we're doing this, week 4 we're doing this. Even if he lays it out, he's going to change it. So there's a certain. It's nice to be able to tell stories here at Impact that okay, cool. For a month, this is how we're going to do it, and no matter what, it's sort of not going to change. So that's nice. WWE, it's hard because everything runs through Vince, and that makes it difficult. So even if you could, get ahead or write more, it's got to go through Vince first. So it's really, you're on his schedule. So you're waiting for him to approve this sort of, these matches or this sort of lineup, and then you can start getting more detailed in. But really, you're at the will of Vince. You're on his schedule. So it's nice not to have that. And there's one other thing else. One of the biggest differences too is that in WWE we write the promos out word for word. Not to say the talent's going to say it word for word, but we have a script where there is a promo that you could say word for word if one were to. And so not having to do that at Impact is pretty nice. It's nice not having to, come up with things from, blank piece of paper and, write a page-long thing that promo somebody's going to say in the ring. And it's nice. The talent here, I collaborate with them, give them bullet points, kind of go through what they're going to say, more or less. And most of the time it works out pretty good.
Awesome.
Yep.
Anything else, Dennis?
No, I'm thrilled with the way this went.
All right. So, Jimmy, thanks for joining us. Where can all the social media and stuff and all that kind of stuff, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Jimmy Jacobs X, Instagram, Jimmy Jacobs X, or you can just find me at a show. I'm at shows a lot of times. And if you find me there, you can say, hey, Jimmy. I'll be like, hey, bro, what's up? And I don't mind that too. It's better to find me there, actually.
Jimmy, do you feel like you and I are now better, maybe even best friends after this?
Best friends, best as far as what's the subsect of people we're talking? Are we talking about best out of everybody in the world, or best on this phone, or best in wrestling? Because I would say no is the answer to all those, but I just want to know.
So no.
How about best out of your fringe friends that aren't really friends, but you kind of know them if you saw their face at a show?
Oh man, I have so many of those, bro. So many of those. I mean, get in line, dude.
No, I'll take it. Pete.
All right, hey Jimmy, thanks so much for joining us. You're definitely our longest guest, and we really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to spending this weekend with you.
Aw.
Fabulous. I'll see you in the room in a second.
Okay, sounds good.